we are honored to have with us today Mr. Anshu Gupta, founder director of Goonj. Popularly known as the Clothing Man, Anshu Gupta is an Indian social entrepreneur who founded Goonj, a non-governmental organization headquartered in Delhi, which undertakes disaster relief, humanitarian aid, and community development in parts of 23 states across India. He is an Ashoka Fellow and was conferred with Social Entrepreneur of the Year award by Schwab Foundation in 2012. He won the Raymond Magsaysay Award in 2015. Listed by the Forbes magazine as one of India's most powerful rural entrepreneurs, Anshu and Goonj have received a series of national and international recognition on innovation, entrepreneurship, governance, and public service, including World Bank's Development Marketplace Award, Changemakers Innovation Award to Jamnalal Bajaj Award for Fair Business Practices. Under Anshu's leadership, Goonj has done massive disaster relief and rehab work pan-India, turning every disaster into an opportunity to reach resources and attention to the most ignored communities. Goonj, with its reliable and need-based disaster relief and rehabilitation model, engages the network of both grassroots leadership and urban stakeholders. Under the initiative, Rahat COVID-19 immediate relief work has already started in parts of 17 states and union territories and building across more. If you are keen to know more about the work of volunteers during the current pandemic, this is a talk we will not like to miss. Now, without taking any more time, I request Mr. Anshu to please enlighten us with his journey and how Goonj is contributing in today's times. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Yatish and all in the foundation. Thank you very much, and thank you all for listening, coming. I think these are tough times in the life of all the people in the world. I mean, this is the first time in the entire world, almost entire world is unified in something. Not a good thing, but ultimately it is united. So I think Yatish also wanted me to communicate a little bit about what we're doing before I get into the COVID part of it. So we run this institution called Goonj, and it is about 21 years of it now. We are about 1,000 plus people and work in parts of now 25 states and union territories. And so I'm otherwise a trained journalist, and then I did my advertising and PR. Left Escorts in '98, and I think on a very, very basic thing, because that was a time when I came from Dehradun, and we started talking about three basic needs of humankind, and we say roti, kapda, makan, food, cloth, and shelter. And then we realized that in this country and many parts of the world, more people die due to lack of clothing in winters than earthquake or floods. So on a very basic issue of clothing, to be honest, this institution was started. The only difference which we did or made in the journey is that so we deal with almost 6,000 tons of now second-hand or new material, cloth, utensil, footwear, furniture, food grains, anything and everything which can be reused. And when we collect it from the people, many of you must be associated in your personal capacities, or your hospitals or your offices must be associated with us for sure. So Bangalore also has a big center, and plus Pan-India, many centers we have. So what we do is that when this material come to us, it goes through a very rigorous process of sorting, processing and all. And then it goes out to the villages of India, thousands of villages, where we don't do any charity. So people take up their own initiatives. They make roads, they dig pond, they clean wells, hardcore water, sanitation, infrastructure activities. And then after a few days of work, instead of say money, they receive this material with lot of dignity, with lot of pride. So charity is completely over. Nothing is going free to people in the normal course, non-disaster mode. And people are really earning. So in a way, if I just sum it up in a line, people who are receiving material are paying back in a currency called labor or community labor or community work, and they're receiving material. So this is like not only the revival of the traditional Indian strength of Shramdan, the community labor, but also it is the revival of the barter economy with two new currencies, which is the material which is there with people like us in the cities, and the community work and his skill, which is with the people in the villages. So this is how the entire network works. A team of 1,000+ people now, uh, and so eventually, what happened? To be honest, when we started, our logic was that why do we wait for a disaster to stand with people when half the world does not need a disaster, because poverty is one of the most common and ongoing disaster. Um, and we never knew that slowly we will also become one of the largest institution here, uh, who is responding, which is responding to the disasters. Just because in this entire work, we have been able to create a very huge network and grid of the partner organization, logistics, material management, all those things which are important at the time of disaster. And we'll talk more about it, with the reference of COVID. Uh, and also because we realize that there is acute need of material, and at the time of disasters, the first few days, that really becomes very, very important. I mean, even if you see COVID today, a large number of people in this country are going through the fear and also the actual status of hunger than the virus scare. If you see the problem as of now, so the larger issue is the virus, larger issue is that disease, and and much larger issue, which is instant, immediate right now, is also the hunger or the survival. So what happened that in this process, we are able to create this huge grid. To be honest, we didn't know, we never expected in our life that a day will come when the entire grid will be of use. Uh, the work in all these states will be of use, because and let me just come to the COVID part and then relate to it. Although uh, all of us know this, but I am just trying to repeat it so that we never forget it. uh, that this is not a common disaster. Uh, None of us, most of the people in this panel also, who are, to be honest, many of them must be much more senior to me in terms of experience and work and age. Hardly any one of us, to be honest, have ever seen such kind of disaster. Hardly anything which has affected the entire world, entire globe in my lifetime. In 21 years of Goonj work, I have never seen any disaster except poverty, uh, which also used to happen in some pockets of every place, but some pockets. I've never seen a disaster. We have never handled a disaster which was actually pan India. If we compare it with other disasters, there used to be one pocket which was affected, and then there were the rest of the country, the rest of the world really used to support that pocket. So when Chennai, Tamil Nadu flood happened, when Kerala flood happened, when J&K flood happened, so this was limited to one geography. Uh, that too, in that geography, some people, and then the entire nation was standing behind those people to support this. In my lifetime, there has been no disaster where every single person is affected. I mean, all of you, the senior most doctors and the medical professional, ultimately, many of you are sitting at home because you're affected by the disaster. Many of the people are, on duty and taking all kind of risk because they're affected by a disaster. So it's a completely different picture. The other important part, which we feel, is that this is one disaster which is in making, which is still unfolding. Uh, this is one disaster where we do not know what is going to be the immediate future. What is going to be the long-term future, we can still say that maybe in the next few months, when the vaccine comes, when the treatment comes, things will become normal the way earlier diseases happened in past, many decades back. But immediately we don't know. Uh, this is one disaster where it all started with one of the health issue, and then we found that the outcome of this is in India especially, the huge amount of reverse migration or the distressed migration, when we saw these lakhs and lakhs of people walking in the worst way. To be honest, I mean, how can someone imagine that someone can really walk a few hundred kilometers with a kid on the shoulder? But that's what we all saw. Then the fall of this or the outcome of this disaster is also acute hunger. Uh, because of the joblessness and because of this sudden distress which has happened, especially with the migrated community. The other important part for us, just to open it up, is large number of us are now focusing on the cities because we can see the hunger directly, or we can see the distress directly, and it's so beautiful to see that a large number of volunteers, people, uh, all of us, have got together. I mean, I know so many people who are cooking food in the kitchens and then trying to supply it. I know so many people who never knew how to cook for large number of people, but still cooking, supporting those kitchens and supplying. I saw, in our work, we can see those hundreds of people who never knew anything about, say, about packing or about buying in bulk, but even they are able to do that. So that's the beauty of the good part of the disaster. But one community, just give me 1 minute here. I'm sorry. Sorry. Uh, but just one community which is the largest part of the population of this country, which unfortunately most of us are not looking at, is the village community. Uh, and this is something which makes me, to be honest, very emotional and very angry also somewhere, because and also in every single such forum I have been talking about it, that this is also a chance to relook the way we have been living our life. This is also a time, a moment to understand that the world is not going to be same, never. This is also a chance to bring correction in a lot of things, the way we were operating. And one simple example of this, I am just questioning myself and millions of us and other people, that when these lakhs and lakhs of people decided to walk, despite knowing that the trains are closed, buses are closed, borders are closed, despite knowing that their home is not nearby, because they have been traveling, all these people, and they exactly know that it takes a couple of days and nights to reach to their villages. What was that that they were so worried, so tense, so insecure, that they actually decided to walk? How come people like us, where our houses are made by them, our food is made by them, our driver was there, our security guard was there, our press guy was there, everyone was there. How come these guys didn't trust us? How come these guys never trusted any of the government, any of the local body, the RWAs, the constructor, the construction people, especially the contractors, the biggest possible corporates, the biggest possible institutions, the biggest possible hospitals, wherever these guys were working? What made them think? Why did they leave? I'm certainly not able to come out of it, because this is an extremely emotional part of it, because I believe that there is a huge amount of trust deficit. There is somewhere we have made a huge mistake by not treating the fellow citizen the way we should treat. I mean, I'm really questioning some of these institutions also, that now we are so worried about distributing cooked meal. But how come we never reached out to those people and said that your food is secured, stay back? All these companies which were employing these people in a big way, all these construction sites which were employing these people, many of us, I mean, I'm yesterday only in one of the session, I was saying that I know some of the friends who are financially very well. And when you come to know that they even they ask their mates to leave, their full-time mates to leave, I'm really surprised, because your maid was living at home. The fact remains that actually she was much more prone or at risk because of the virus which can come through you, because people like us move out. They were at home. We had no risk from those people, but we were still not careful about the people. And when I say this, I'm not saying that hundreds and thousands of absolutely beautiful, nice soul They are still taking care of the salaries, of making sure that all their support people, because of whom they exist. I mean, if I'm able to speak in more than one language, I can still eat. I can sit at home. I can do all these Zoom calls, webinars with all my laptops and all. My food is secured. I can even buy for next 1 or 2 months. Every single thing has come from those people at the end of the day. It's so ironical that the farmers, because of whom we are sitting at home and eating and secured for even next few months, that exactly the same farmer is standing in the queue to ask for the same rice which is supplied to us. So I'm saying that it is also it's also a chance, because all of us are at home. Many of us have a lot of time. Some of us are wasting our time in watching all those nuisance television channels and WhatsApp updates and all those nasty caste community videos. I think this is also a chance for all of us to relook at the way we have been living, question ourselves, and do the best. And there are hundreds of examples next door who have done wonders. I'm absolutely thankful and very emotional about the people who, despite knowing the risk of the disaster, uh, they decided to get into the permission mode. They took permissions, they took all kind of precautions, and they went out to make sure that some people really get food, whatever they can, or some people really get care. Some people get medicine. I know in this community also, a lot of doctor friends and all, they are reaching out to people. Their phones are so busy because they're reaching back to their patients, asking them, suggesting them, doing video calls, doing WhatsApp calls. It's so beautiful to see that happening. But before I get into the Q&A and all, my only thing is that the magnitude of the disaster, uh, the entire time period of the disaster, how long it will really go on, is really, really too much. It's too big. It's unknown. So the way we used to handle any other disaster in this country in the past, or in this world in the past, this particular disaster cannot be handled like that. Not at all. Even if we do 5 times of that, it will not be enough. We have to do 100 times of that, and then we have to do it. So, in nutshell, this is a time to understand that the impact of this disaster is going to be much, much, much larger, much deeper, and it will go on. The second is, I believe, it's a beautiful time for all of us to relook at the way we have been living, we have been treating the fellow citizens. This is also the time to focus more and more in the villages of the country, so that the people who came here years back in distress, then they stayed in the worst possible spaces of the cities, but they made our life beautiful, despite living themselves in the worst part of the cities, despite not having enough food they cooked for us, despite not having a shelter they made homes for us. Let's understand, let's be thankful to those those people that way. The sad part is that the same people actually went back in the same distress in which they came. So for sure, we all really need to reach out to them and say sorry. I mean, I am doing this every day. uh, I certainly want to say sorry, because I couldn't give those people that trust, that we are there and we can take care of the food. And in this few days of our work, we exactly know that even if it is like 2,000 rupees worth of dal chawal namak, a family can still survive. Family will not die of hunger. And there is no dearth of people who can really take out 2,000 rupees for next even 10 years for so many families, and make sure, without even putting a post on Facebook, just make sure that so many people really survive. So this is a time for those actions. This is a time for uh, paying back. Uh, this is a time to stand with people. I always say not for people, but with people, because they have a lot of skills. It is a time to stand with the Indian villages, where today, if you see the larger problem, the villages have more population and less resources. Villages are already distressed. every single thing which you are not able to get it in the market, especially your vegetables, your fruits, your whatever, ultimately comes from there. So we are not getting it is an issue of taste or nutrition for us. But just imagine any fruit, any vegetable, if we are not able to get it, there was someone who was growing, there was someone who was transporting, there was someone who was doing the wholesale business, and then the retail business. That entire employment chain is completely destroyed now. And this employment chain happens crop to crop. So if in one crop cycle they're not able to do good, they are actually doomed for the next crop cycle also, because they are literally like daily wages, where if you do not get it today, you cannot earn for tomorrow also, because you don't have any investment or survival cost. So this is a time, to be honest, for that. Now, in nutshell, then we get into Q&A of all. What Gunj is doing, there was something. So as I said, that we have been able to create that grid in the country, in 25 states and union territories. In the last couple of weeks, we have been able to activate our work in 17 states of India, where with our partner organizations directly, with team, with new institutions, we are trying to reach out. We have, and this is something where this disaster will be handled very well if every single thing is decentralized instead of centralization of everything. So we have, so that the human touch is less, and also the logistics are much lesser. So what we have done is that we have absolutely decentralized the entire model. We are reaching out to lots and lots of communities across the country. Gunj.org has the updated report, so I'll not get into that, or the Gunj Facebook page, and maybe the team from Ready Foundation can send you that update. So I'm not getting into that. But right now, apart from supporting the local kitchens, we are reaching out to the remotest possible areas, whether these are the Devdasis in the Karnataka region, or the HIV positive entire bunch of people in Mizoram, or sugarcane migrant worker in Maharashtra, or the sex workers, or the transgender communities. Apart from normal, all other categories of the migrant and the jobless people, these are some absolutely vulnerable categories of people. I mean, all of us know that the person in the sex trade or the transgender community or the tribal belts are going to be such badly affected with this, and they will be the people who will not immediately even get back into their respective jobs. Immediate focus is for sure survival, but we are also making sure that with the survival kit, which is the food, it's a very simple example I'll share with you, that what we thought that there is a lot of stress on giving cooked food, which is very wonderful. We also did that, but very very fast we moved to the dry ration, and we said that if someone is homeless, if someone is sitting at home, someone who wanted to couldn't walk, stuck somewhere in the city, if with the 15-20 kg of basic ration, if you just add maybe 2 cooking pan, few utensils, the person can actually, even on the road, start cooking their own food, whatever way. And it will be much better than getting into the queue for 3-4 hours and then getting the cooked food. And especially the cooked food really served very well. But now as the heat is, becoming more, the cooked food is becoming much more riskier. So this is what in nutshell we are doing. And the other job which we are doing is certainly talking to a large number of people, and trying to say that we all have a lot. And when we say we all have a lot, that does not limit our lot to the money which we have. We otherwise also have a lot. So 2 things. A lot of people are asking, how do we really find out what do we have? So I'm saying that after this session, sit in isolation for about half an hour, 45 minutes, take a piece of paper, and put every single contact you have. And I mean, I'm talking to the most respected people of the society, very well connected people of the society. So I'm saying that take out every single contact of yourself. If you have a brother who works in a company which makes soap, or if you have a sister whose husband is somewhere, or she herself is somewhere in the company which is making lungis or dhotis, or children book, or toys or utensils, anything which someone is doing, that is your contact. Connect with those people and make sure that more and more material flow in the market. When I say market, for the people, because this disaster cannot be handled by just by distributing dal, chawal, namak. There are hundreds and thousands of people who are becoming homeless. So they need a shelter, they need a tarpaulin, they need mosquito beds, mosquito nets, they need utensils to cook and all that. Second thing, which I would say is also is important for all of us to map our strengths. One very, very strong and much needed strength with all of us in this group is obviously our knowledge of medicine and our knowledge of various diseases. Uh, this is the toughest time for the people. Uh, there are all kind of diseases which we are finding reporting. I mean, we can imagine in this country every single hospital used to be overcrowded. The government hospital used to have a queue at 4 o'clock in the morning to get a card made, and still people were not getting a chance to show to the doctors. You can imagine when the entire medical system is closed for a large number of people, either these are closed or people do not have access or people cannot travel. You can imagine that what kind of things are coming up. Apart from that, one of the things which all of us need to understand, that many of us are really a bit lucky that we have two bedroom, 3 bedroom houses with us. Think of those millions and maybe half a billion people or maybe more, where a family of 6 to 8 or 5, 6 people is confined to 50, 60 square feet of the space in some slum, in some small colony, in some makeshift arrangement in sheet. They cannot move out in the street. They share the toilets, they share the water, they share everything. The only source of entertainment and sense of space for all of them was that they move out of their homes and they only come when they have to sleep. I mean, I was really wondering that how do people survive in Bombay, because if you come out of the airport and roam around a bit, Bombay has this typical structure where on the ground floor is just about 6 feet, and then on the first floor, a shanty kind of thing where you hardly have 3 feet, 4 feet, where while when you go in the night, you actually slide and then sleep. So how are these people, really living? Also, because there is huge issue in India and many other countries, but let me talk about India, is of the domestic violence, is of the domestic sexual abuse. Uh, those are the issues for sure. Plus, as the liquor is not available, so a lot of these people, who are not getting the regular supplies, is another kind of challenge for them. When they were drinking, it was a challenge. When they are not drinking, it is a challenge. And even in the middle class and above, a lot of people are really going through a tough phase because cigarettes are not available, this is not available. So you can imagine that part of the society. So if we have if we map our strengths, then we can certainly understand that what all do we have. And I'm saying that as doctor, as medical profession, your strength is not just limited to the knowledge of medicine or or to interact with the patient. Many of you must be really beautiful singers, good artists. This is also the time to make use of it for the other people. But for sure, picking up a phone and talking to people, taking full precautions, moving out in the community with the regulations and all, the way a lot of people like us who do not know anything about health, who do not have safety gear, but are still trying to go, and a lot of people in the medical professions are also doing that. I think it's important for many other people to really join that for sure, based on the need, and after absolutely securing and working on the government regulations and the instructions. I will stop here, and then I'm absolutely open for all kind of questions, queries, and all. And I'm told that if I can really uh, do the COVID thing, I'll do it later. I'll tell you about COVID, and then I'll also read it. One part of it, I'll read it. Over to you.
Yeah. First of all, thank you, Mr. Gupta, for such an insightful as well as thought-provoking words, I would say. Sometimes what happens is we are just going with the flow of our daily routine. And thanks for, triggering us with the thought that, there is a lot more we can do individually. So thanks for that. I come on to the first question, sir. Apart from providing the dry ration and helping the needy uh, in some various terms. What are key various initiatives which currently Gunj is doing?
So, one is that we are certainly making a lot of masks, cloth masks, because as we deal with cloth, we have our machines, women and all. So before the lockdown happened, we had started making masks. So today, as of now, we are making masks in Cochin, in Chennai, in Delhi, in Rishikesh, in Bihar, in Odisha, and today we have also started making in West Bengal. So again, decentralizing it, we are actually just coming out with that knowledge part of it, that can every single village start making masks for its own, because every single village have few machines. If we just provide some knowledge and some cloth and all, at least the basic mask can be made. To be honest, when we started making masks, a lot of people were not very happy because everyone was talking about N95, and we exactly knew that 1.3 billion people of this country might need masks, or half of them, but not we cannot have so many N95.
Yes.
If we can really even have a basic cloth mask, which is now approved and which everyone is talking about, if nothing else, you become very conscious about yourself.
True.
Right? The moment, the way in the medical profession, I have also gone through. You give us cast when a little fracture or something happen, and you say, no, this cast is so that you are careful. So I think even that mask to some extent solve that purpose. So we are making masks. We are also making sanitary pads. If you know, we were the first people to talk about the menstrual hygiene issue in this country. So we have started making those, again, cloth pads. In the last few days, we have done about 15,000 such pads, and now it is growing. As we are also getting permissions, on a daily basis from the authorities and all that, and that's how we are growing. Plus, as I said, that our larger role is to make sure that we work a lot in the villages of India. and this is, I'm relating to some other question which I just saw on the screen about the migrant laborers. So I would say that yes, some part of the migrant labor should come back. Some of the companies are in touch with us also, and they are saying that they need people and all that. But what we are asking them is that what is that which you guys have changed? Are you really ensuring a good life and a social security and a dignified life to the people of the village? And then only ask them to come. Otherwise, don't lure them because they're hungry there. They've walked back hundreds of kilometers. Fine. So I think the dignity part is extremely important. And one other insight in the dynamics of this entire thing, what we need to understand is that there are a lot of those rotten economic theories, I would say, where a lot of people have been saying for decades that bring people from the villages, bring them to the cities, and the poverty will really, that's the solution to solve the poverty issues. And my question always has been to all these people is that the people who are already there in the cities, are they living a good or even a basic life? I mean, the people who have migrated. So why are we bringing more people? So this is also a golden chance with us to really redo this country to some extent, where people have taken a huge amount of pain to go back, if they can remain there. The people who come here, they only come by choice. They do not come here by compulsion. I mean, when I say I am a migrated person because I migrated from Dehradun, I migrated by choice. Many of us in this group must have migrated by choice because we wanted to study in a particular institute or a particular kind of stuff, or we wanted to stay in a particular city. But if you see the larger part of this country, which you also saw walking, all these people actually are migrated in compulsion because as a nation we failed to take care of people in their villages, although their needs were very limited. So all of us, Gunj is cut 100% working on that. That how do we make sure that we create a lot of local livelihood options, and stop creating alternate livelihood options. Fine. I think all of us after this crisis understand the value of food. Not that we didn't know the value of food, but unfortunately, all of us always valued food, not the farmer. It is the right time to bring correction and start valuing the farmer of this country and say that you remain a farmer, we will work with you, we will bring whatever new developments, technology and all, so that you grow, you prosper, and only the people who want to migrate by choice, who want to get into some other profession, not because agriculture is not available, but because they want to do accounting or CA or MBA or whatever, or want to become a nurse or doctor, let them go. So, so that is what our larger focus, as and when this place starts opening, we will work a lot and lot in the villages of country, and the work is already started.
Thank you for the wonderful insights on this. Sir, one next question comes up, as you know, because every work is being done through volunteers. How are you keeping your team of volunteers motivated in this time?
So, people are really motivated. It's not that people are not motivated. I think some people are I don't know why they're so afraid that they're not even thinking of taking an initiative. I'm
Yeah.
saying that the all of us need to really have a huge amount of fear, but then at the end of the day, whole lot of government officers are working, whole lot of NGO people are working, whole lot of
Yes.
medical people are working. They are taking precautions, they are understanding the laws, they are following those rules and distances, but they are working. And I'm saying, upfront here that, and this is what I'm repeating again, that a large number of institutions and the individuals who were, or the professions which were discarded in this country in the race of privatization, those are the people because of whom we will be here. I mean, see, every single PHC or the government health system, which was largely defunct in many cases and overloaded, that is something which has no option but to deliver a lot, and people are delivering. uh, the government schools, of the village schools, we never took care of those. We never even made toilets there, because that was like one of those beneficiary kind of thing we used to keep talking. These are the little buildings which are actually are the places where all these people who are migrating there, resting there, all that quarantine thing and all that is in most of these places it is happening. This was discarded by the country, but the most valuable thing, the nurses, we never took care of it. the these small PHCs, public health consultants, we never took care of it. The ASHA workers, we never took care. The NGO sector, whatever rotten things we wanted to say, we said about them. The truck drivers, we never took care. The Safai Karamchari, or the people who sweep our roads and floors, we never took care of them. And see, I'm even giving examples of Air India, that how bad things we keep talking about Air India. I mean, whole lot of these companies run away with government money. No one talks about them, but Air India, every time we keep talking bad about them, and see how Air India really performs at the time of disaster. So, so every it's just that we understand this, that this is a larger disaster and it need all of us. Uh, and some people will have to take initiative. Some people will sit at home and take initiative. Some people will have to go out, follow the regulations, exactly keep yourself safe and other people safe, and then do it. I keep my team motivated because we have a purpose. It's a very tough work, tough profession, in the sense emotionally very tough. Physically is one part, because every day when we get up, every day when we spend the day, we only hear all kind of distress stories. We hear stories of hunger, of starvation, of walking, in every disaster, right? In every disaster, not only in this. uh, I think the only thing which keeps us going on all these hundreds and thousands of people is just a purpose, and maybe the power. And when I say power, it is that we feel that we are very privileged, that we can sit inside the home safely and still work for the people who are outside the wall. Very few people have this privilege, and I can tell you that every single person who can come on a Zoom call or webinar these days is is in that privileged part of the society.
Very well said, sir. Thank you. Next up is how do you see healthcare fraternity helping in this time? Apart from, of course, they are doing a wonderful job as far as taking care of the patients and ensuring that the care delivery is not broken. But then, in your understanding, where do you see healthcare fraternity maybe coming a step forward?
Uh, so I feel that this is one fraternity which really need to come up in a much better and bigger way. And just pardon me because I'm somewhere I say whatever I feel. If you do not agree, it's absolutely fine. But I feel that this fraternity has to really come up in a much bigger way. When I say this fraternity, a large number of people are already there doing a lot, but a large number of people need to take more initiatives, because the people who are involved right now, they are largely taking care of people who have anything to do with COVID, whether there is doubt, whether you have to rule out or you have to treat, is largely of COVID. Um, my thing is that this country, uh, any given day needed much bigger healthcare system than what we have. We have more patients, more needs in comparison of what we have, whether you talk about beds, whether you talk about doctors, nurses, infrastructure and all, right? And a large and a large part of the country in any case does not have that kind of system. So it is a big opportunity and a duty of most of us to really come up and deliver whatever we can. Some people take full precautions, take permissions, move out, do whatever you can for the non-COVID affected people also. Because the people who have any kind of psychological issue, the diabetes, the heart issues, the skin problems, hundreds and thousands of other diseases which otherwise keep all of us busy, they still exist, and they exist and they're growing in a much, to be honest, bigger way, because you are confined to a small room somewhere and you're going through all those tough phases. Plus a lot of people are not getting medical attention on time. Fortunately, in some areas, the chemist shops are open, and I'm really thankful to some of my doctor friends and known people and unknown people who are making sure that they reach out to people, they're sharing their number, they're talking to NGOs and other fraternities, that the people can reach out to them. And जो हिंदी में डॉक्टर के बारे में कहा जाता है, और जो मैंने बहुत अच्छी तरह से सुना है कि आधा रोग जो है आधा रोग डॉक्टर की शक्ल देख के खत्म हो जाता है. So half of your fear, half of your whatever disease really goes away when you see a doctor. आप उसका face देखते हैं, and the way doctor smiles at you, and half of your disease is over. And I've seen it many times, to be honest. We all have our favorite doctors, not just because they treat us well, but also because we find a smiling face and they take care of us. Please just move out of your circle. Move out to the larger world. If with the help of technology, 150 or whatever number of us can talk to each other here, listen to each other here, reach out to people and just solve their problems through the phones and all, half of the disease will be over by that. And then half of the disease you can still take care by maybe prescribing some basic medicine. I know there are fear on telemedicine, there are regulations on that, but I can tell you that in such kind of disaster, the basic medicines, and we have seen in disasters that how even for a Crocin, people really move out 20 kilometers on a boat, and then they're never able to go back in that part, because no boat is taking you in. Boat is only rescuing people that way. So I think all of us can play a major role. We will make a sheet, but don't wait for that, because I think to be honest, you can suggest us much better if this community just start writing to each other by the end of tomorrow, in the next 24 hours. We all can come out with a list, the way this fraternity can really stand with people, for each other and for other people. Some suggestions we have, but more suggestions will come from the people like you, because you are the practitioners here.
Great, sir. Thank you so much. Next up is, so most people don't have access to smartphones and televisions, and hence there was, misinformation or lack of information, especially when we talk about the migrant population. Don't you think that there is a need to make this particular system as a robust one, so that each and every individual, gets the authenticated information before somebody takes a drastic step or just start moving in?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, and as far as a smartphone is concerned, I know that people don't have a smartphone. But if you see the way we have been operating, and because I'll give you a simple example. So we are about 1,000 plus people, and a large number of people are in the part of the processing team and all, fine, in the range of say 15,000 or whatever salaries.
Yes.
And so what we did, and I'm thankful to those people and the systems and whatever that, not even a single person was walking in that crowd of this small institution in comparison to many other big institutions, because we did nothing. We just reached out to each one of them and just told them that your food is secured, your job is not gone. So your food is secured. Wherever you are, just be there. And that's how every single person we are able to really, uh, these people are there. And then what we did, we started making a small WhatsApp group for all of them. So all these processing teams have their own WhatsApp group. We started feeding some information on that, which is 100% non-religious. No religious thing is allowed, because it's a very risky thing right now. No fundamental thing, no Desh Bhakti kind of stuff. All that is not there. It's just factual information. Is just some fun part. Is just the exam papers or the study material for the 10th grade student and all that. So we created a Goonch channel, and we started flowing information on that. And what we found, so there was this apprehension, Surbit, right in the beginning, that people don't have a smartphone. But today this problem is solved because the family is staying together. And if the mother or father do not have a smartphone, the kid has a smartphone. So in a family, you will find one kid who still has access to a second-hand smartphone, something. So that is one part of it. So that problem little bit is solved. And even if a smartphone is not there, there is SMS, and people still do that. People are accessing their SMSs now. And I'm saying that why do we worry about every single person? At least take a step and see, okay, 100,000 people are covered. Take next step and say another 200,000 people are covered. And I think that's how we reach out to the population, not with one single tool, but with many, many tools. This is also high time that the country really understands that we need to spend much more money on the health and education and the sanitation and water in this country than buying, than the weapons and the infrastructures and all that. I mean, this is high time, not only India, but many other countries need to understand. So let's see how it goes. We are the decision makers at the end of the day. So let's see how we change with the disaster and do it.
Sure, sir. Thank you so much. Next is Ms. Vibhavari Negale asks, how do you plan to provide so many landless laborers who have gone back to villages their livelihood in their own villages?
If as a nation we work on only two things, fine. One is the water in the village, not for drinking, but for the agriculture. And second thing, we really work and start respecting farmer as a skill, or farming as a skilled profession. I mean, you'll be surprised to know that even today, the people who are growing a few hundred kind of rice and they add, two different variety of mango, and then create a third beautiful and very tasty mango. No one calls it innovation. No one calls them skilled. Farming is still that way an unskilled profession. And the irony is that people like me who can discuss, who can write paper on this, who can even do PhD, we are skilled, but the farmer is not skilled. Similarly, so the day we start respecting the farmer and understand that agriculture is needed and agriculture can happen in a big way, and we do not ignore that, people will not come out, because the fact remains that even today 5,000, 6,000, 4,000 rupees you can survive in the villages. 10, 12, 13,000 rupees you can't even get a small place, a small kholi in the slum of any big city. And dignity you don't even talk about. And these schools where these kids go are not really very good in comparison of the schools which are there in the villages. To be honest, many schools run in the villages are much better than many schools run by some of the municipalities in the country. That way. Number one. The second part, why I'm talking about water again and again, and that too of the agriculture water, I'm even telling the people that if you are working on healthcare, if you're working on education, everywhere the important part is water. Because if the water for agriculture happens, the agriculture happens. Because of agriculture, the employment happens. After the employment, the forced migration will not happen, only the migration by choice will happen. So a large number of people will stay back. And this country has lot of, examples of the reverse migration and people settling down. A simple example, if I give you, years back, when Nitish Kumar came in Bihar first time, and the law and order improved at that time, there was acute shortage of labor in Punjab, because the moment law and order improved, infrastructure work started happening in Bihar, and the Bihar person never wanted to go to Punjab and earn money. That person was absolutely happy to earn little less, but in your own home place.
True.
So I am pretty sure that a lot of people will stay back. And to be honest, unlike any other theory, my simple theory is that if you want a better life in city, if you want cities to prosper, you do not have to work in the cities, but you have to work on the villages, so that only the so that the people do not come here to remain homeless, so that people do not come here to really live a very absolutely life without dignity in the slums. Only the people who really want to come to the cities will come there. No one will come in compulsion.
Definitely, sir. Thank you so much. Maybe I'll take one or two last questions before I request you for the Covidi poem.
Sure.
Yeah. So this goes, Mr. Srikanth would like to ask, is healthcare infrastructure strong and sound enough to take care of infected people in villages?
Nahin. No.
Not at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, how many villages actually have the healthcare infrastructure in that way, even to deal with the normal diseases of people?
Yeah.
And how deep is our healthcare system in any case? How many PHCs do we have, which you really have the good facilities?
Absolutely.
And this disaster, even the best possible hospital and the healthcare systems in many other countries has not been able to handle. So it's a complicated one. Fine, it is challenging every single infrastructure, every single norm, which people have done. Yes, some countries have been able to do a little bit better because they invested a lot in healthcare systems earlier. But this entire system of private healthcare, especially with the insurance thing, see how miserably it failed. So
That's right.
So villages really need. I mean, this is a call for all of us to invest more time, money, energy in those places from where these people are coming, to reduce the burden on all of you, who are here. But as of now, it is not. It is not prepared for sure.
And I think on the same lines, if we see, it was always a risky proposition when we see so many people, heading back to their villages. Uh, Again, so that was one of the most important and deep
It is.
concern, I would say.
It is. It is. It actually, and that's how the hunger and the this desperation became a much larger issue. Uh, and maybe I think if we change the way we are living, things will improve. I think that's the most important part for me. Again and again, I'm repeating.
I completely agree with you on this. So, sir, one last, I would not say this is a question, but maybe a word of appreciation. Of course, we have plenty. But then, so Miss Asta says, when can we see a movie on your life journey and inception of Goonj? It must reach to all corners of the world. You are a true hero. So I would say to Miss Asta that, you have seen the movie today, and the director, producer, actor is the man himself, Mr. Anshu Gupta. Sir, what's your take on this?
But मैं क्या बोलूँ? I'm Asta. Thank you so much. I think I'll just say a simple thing, before. So this goes back to my subsidy story, and that is that when I was doing my IMC here, the fees used to be a few thousand rupees in those days. I'm talking about 1991 and all that. And then in 98, I left Escorts, and my wife, Meenakshi, who was also the co-founder of Goonj, she joined the BBC that time, and she worked there for a decade. And I remember in 1998 when I was leaving job, so I did a small calculation, and I said that, of my institution, the fees should have been about 50,000 or maybe 1 lakh, because the kind of facilities and faculty we had. And then, like any other person, I also look back at my very beautiful, honest, middle-class family of a government officer who was transferred every few years or months because of whatever way he used to live his life, and I'm proud of it. Now, So I said, was it possible for my parents to pay? And then I realized that no, it was not. So this is like almost like almost more than 2 decades of realization that I am the biggest product of subsidy of this country. Uh, Anyone, to be honest, who has ever gone to a government school, college, private institute, IIMC, IIT, All India Medical Institute, any government aided, even the private institution where the land is given almost free of cost, has actually eaten up the subsidy of this country. Right? And then later on, I realized that it is not only the taxpayer subsidy I have eaten, I am also eating on a daily basis the subsidy by the farmer of this country. Farming is one of those rare and the large scale profession where there is no law of minimum wages. So the day you start paying minimum wages to the farmer, most of us can't even touch rice. So that farmer who is unfortunately in the queue, and we all are trying to see and calling it relief and all that kind of thing. That farmer is subsidizing every day of my life, my stomach, my family, my everything. I think so that realization is such an important realization for each one of us, and the God has given, and maybe the virus has given us a chance to really chukao that karja, to pay the debt to the people. And I am just privileged, Asa. Thank you so much for, I don't even know you, to be honest. And if you feel so, if you have such beautiful word for us, I'm just privileged that, hundreds and thousands of people work with us. Uh, they understand all our nuisance also. We are a bit upfront people. And because of their blessings, because of their love, we are here, and we are privileged that we are able to do something. Whether our efforts will make a huge difference in the life of someone as of now, but only thing we know that wherever we'll reach, at least हम उसको कुछ दिन जिंदा रखने का काम कर सकते हैं. We can do that. बाकी तो the God will tell us and the time will tell us. Thank you so much, Asa and all.
Great, sir. Thank you so much. So last one question and then over to your beautiful poem. How can we create a tsunami of support through social media? And in continuation, how can we reach out to you if we want to volunteer or support?
So Goonj has a very vibrant website called goonj.org. Goonj has a vibrant Facebook page, which does not talk much, but it will not talk about every single activity, but keep giving updates to you, and we are responsive. Mail@goonj.org is the common ID where you write, and within 48 hours you will get the answers. Maximum 48 hours, because we get a couple of hundred emails every day. The team is very widespread. Spread. We are on job right now, and we want more and more people to certainly join. The only request is that not only about Goonj, but any other institution where you share the post of any kind of contribution, make sure that the person who is sharing first give and then share. It should not be just simple sharing of the messages, because that is, we have seen that enough in WhatsApp and all that we don't even think, we think that our role is over by sharing it. No, it is that all of us have to do. And I am also requesting that it's not about Goonj. Goonj is just one small institution somewhere trying to do something. Any institution you can work with, any individual you can work with in your area, in your families, in your known circle, in your unknown circle, have lot of trust, immense trust on people. Salute their courage that in this such huge and tough environment they are taking initiatives, and support any single organization. Don't even think about which organization and all that. And these smaller organizations certainly need much more support, because we are also working with a lot of these smaller organizations, because they are the people who are they are the grassroots, and they have the direct connect with so many people. So stand with any institution, not only Goonj. I mean, that's because doing good is a collective responsibility. So all of us have to become a part of this journey, and Goonj is just one component of this journey. For Goonj, you find everything on mail or website, but I'm saying that any other organization also, just please reach out. This is a time really to stand with people. God will not, I'm just praying that God does not give us this opportunity again, such opportunity to serve and stand with people that way.
True, sir. I think your every word makes a lot of sense, and we just pray that we, as the world, we come out of this situation very soon. Sir, before we say goodbye to you and to everybody, we would like to have some excerpt from your Kovidi poem.
Acha. So, just to tell you that, I started writing Kovidi and of course, not on a happy note to start with because, all these things really touched a lot. So it'll come out hopefully in the shape of a book. My poetry is back. So first one which I wrote, I will just read that. Now there are three of those. And the first one was also picked up by BBC for their postcard series, and it says like this. I'm just reading it. That's what I was looking for in mobile, in the middle of it. It says कि तुम अब तुम अब गांव में ही बस जाना, वापस ना आना, दो सूखी रोटी खाना पर वापस ना आना। जानता हूं गांव की जमीन गिरवी रखाए थे और छुड़ाने को कुछ जोड़ ही ना पाए। दिन लगाना, रात को खटना, पर वापस ना आना। जानता हूं माँ को वादा कराए थे बहन की शादी का, खर्च जोड़ने का। मेहमान चार बुलाना, मोहब्बत से थोड़ा ही खिलाना, पर वापस ना आना। मिट्टी की सड़कों पर चलना, आम के पेड़ के नीचे सुस्ताना, चुल्लू में पानी ले पोखर से पीना, मिर्च की चटनी से रोटी खाना, हरियाली पर इतराना, गीली मिट्टी की खुशबू लेना, बस वापस ना आना। हमने गंदी गलियां दी थी ना रहने को तुम्हें, तुम्हारी खोली चूती थी ना किसी बड़ी बिल्डिंग के बाजू में। स्कूल अलग थे ना तुम्हारे बच्चों के, तुम ना जाने किस किस को हफ्ता चुकाते थे, और फिर तुम्हारे तो ठेले भी लाठी खाते थे। हम तुम्हें दीनहीन, गरीब, बेचारा कहते थे ना, खुद घरों में घुसकर तुम्हें सड़कों पर भूखा पैदल छोड़ा था ना, बस तुम वापस ना आना। यकीन मानना ये सारे शब्द बदलेंगे, बेचारा कौन है अब हम शायद समझेंगे। शुक्रिया।
I think there has to be a complete silence after the beautiful words which you have just explained, sir. The words may look small, but I think the meaning behind them is very, very deep. With this, few some last message, final message for our audience, sir.
नहीं, कुछ नहीं बोलना है। देखिए, आप लोग बहुत you all are very blessed because of you, so many people survive, so many people live. All of you have done good for your life. I am sure you've earned well. You've earned well in terms of money, in terms of respect, in terms of knowledge. अभी ये मौका है हम लोगों के पास में कि हम खड़े हो जाएं लोगों के साथ में और जितना कर सकते हैं कर लें, क्योंकि यकीन मानिएगा कि इस समय इस देश को थिंकर्स की ज़रूरत नहीं है ज़्यादा, इस देश को डूअर्स की ज़रूरत है। This country does not need thinkers right now. It needs action. It needs initiatives. It needs doers. And all of you who have been a part of the doing community, I am saying as last point of this beautiful session, and I'm so thankful to all of you to stay back and listen to my buck, as I say. This is a time that all of us really stand with each other and see what all we can do, not for people, but with people. And this is a time when we actually chuka our karja, pay our debts. Thank you very much for organizing this, for listening. Be in touch. I am there on anshu@goonj.org or mail@goonj.org anytime. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I bow down to you on behalf of everybody from Dr. Reddy's and all the participants. And with this, I would like to thank each one of you and of course, Mr. Gupta, for sparing your time. We wish all your days be full of positivity, high on energy, because good health can't wait. Jai Hind.